Okay, guys, today we're going to go over an example of using elimination. And the beginning ones with elimination, what we want to be able to do is to find opposites for either x or y so that when we cancel them, either x or y in the equation goes on. So really my focus has to be to look at what's happening in both these columns for x and y. So if I look for x, I can see there's negative 4x and positive 4x. That's going to be my opposite that I see. The negative 2y and positive 8y aren't opposites. So if I'm going to be able to look at this, soon as I see that they're opposites, I can make a plus sign and draw a line. Now my first column, the negative 4x and positive 4x cancels. Negative 2y plus 8y is positive 6y. And negative 12 plus negative 24 is negative 36. And now my job is just to solve for y. So divide both sides by 6. So I end up with y equals negative 6. So remember, we're looking for a point. So I know my y value is negative 6. So now I need to find x. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to use either this equation or this one. Got to do one or the other. Now, honestly, I might use the second one instead of the first one because it has less negatives in it, just to make it easier for me to solve. So 4x plus 8y equals negative 24. And I'm going to take that negative 6 and put it in for y. So 4x plus 8 times negative 6 equals negative 24. Now I do know this part right here is something I can solve. So 8 times negative 6 is negative 48. So 4x minus 48 equals negative 24. And now my job is just to go through and keep solving. So I'm going to undo the subtracting 48 by adding 48. So I have 4x on this side. Negative 24 plus 48 is positive 24. Divide by 4. I get x equals 6. Now remember, I've got to put this back together in my point for that to be able to count. So my final answer on that one is 6, negative 6. Okay, let's do one more. So if I want to use elimination, now I have this problem that has x minus y equals 11. So remember we said we're going to add our 1's there. And then I have 2x plus y equals 19, and that should go right there. So if I'm looking for opposites with x and y, I'm going to look at these two groups. So first one with the x's, those are not opposites, so I know it's not going to be that. Negative 1y and positive 1y, those are opposites, so I'm going to go with getting rid of the y's. So as soon as I see the opposites, my plus sign and draw my line. So I have 1x plus 2x is 3x. The y's are going to cancel. 11 plus 19 is 30. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 3. And I get x equals 10. So in my point, I know my x value is going to be 10. So now I need to find y. Now, honestly, I can go back. Remember, I can use either one of these equations. Honestly, even though the numbers are a little bigger in the second one, that's probably the one I'd use, probably not the first, but the second. Just because I have positive numbers there, and even though they're bigger, it's easier to plug in for positive numbers than it is to have some negatives in there. So I'm going to put 10 here. So 2 times 10 is 20. So to get y by itself, subtract 20. 1y equals -1, or y equals -1. And that gives me my y. Now, those are kind of the big deal as far as elimination when you have matching ones. So if I have opposites that are already there, then we're good to go. There are a few of them where you're going to have to do some multiplying through. So let me give you an example of that. So -6x plus 6y equals 6. -6x plus 3y equals -12. So I can tell by looking at them, by looking at both the x's and the y's, I don't have opposites. But I do have the same for that. -6x is -6x. So one of the things that we talked about was that when you have identicals, we can take one equation and multiply by -1. So it doesn't really matter which one, but we're going to take it and we're going to multiply the whole thing by -1. So maybe we can create some opposites. So -6x becomes +6x, plus 6y is -6y, +6 is -6. But if I look now, I can see that I've got opposites going on, and that's what I want. So these are going to cancel. So 3y and -6y is -3y. -12 and -6 is -18. Divide both sides by -3, and I get y equals 6. So in my point, my y value is 6. So now I need to find x. Now if I go back, I want to be able to use one of my equations. So more than likely, I'm going to use either this one or this one. But I could use the third one if I wanted to. The only problem is we want the least amount of negatives. So that one has 2 on the bottom. I probably wouldn't use that. Second one has 2 negatives. I probably wouldn't use that. So I would probably use this first one. Now, if you make the determination you want to use one of the other ones, that's fine. As long as you solve correctly, you'll be okay and good to go. Okay, so now we're going to take this 6 and put it in for y. So 6 times 6 is going to give me 36. Okay, so I'm going to subtract 36. So 6 minus 36 is -30. Divide by -6, and I get x equals 5. That's going to be there. Okay, go over your notebook, and this will be our warm-up for tomorrow.